Paul, thanks for your time. I do want to talk about the legal aspect of this because there are 3 California lawsuits that are currently ongoing, civil lawsuits that Dr. Cosby now faces. There's the defamation suit there in Massachusetts as well. How does the guilty verdict on Thursday affect those cases?
It's huge. This is a watershed moment against Bill Cosby with this conviction. You mentioned and alluded to those 3 lawsuits. That's just the tip of the iceberg at this point. We know of the over 60 public accusers against Cosby, and I think all of them today are turning around and going back into court. We already know that 3 or 4 states have extended their statute of limitations and rescinded them against rape allegations. So there's the possibility of more criminal charges facing him. But beyond that, these civil charges are now going to be proliferating our courts with Bill Cosby. And here's why. All of the other settlements that he may have been involved in and all of the other gag orders that may have limited what evidence and information could be used against him are now out the window because all of this information about his conviction and his trial is in the public domain. And so that information can be used against him in these civil trials, and now they still have to prove their case, right? And most of these cases are defamation, so that they have to prove damages for their reputation. But those cases, which, by the way, don't have a statute of limitation,
right,
are all going to be filling our courtrooms, as well as the criminal charges. The difference, though, in the criminal charges that may be pending for the states that have rescinded their statute of limitations in sexual assault cases like this one will be running concurrently if there are convictions with this case. And we still haven't gotten the sentencing yet. The judge does have the option, when he does sentence him, of running those sentences, which, as we already know, are up to 10 years per charge, either consecutive or concurrent. So he can stack them or merge them together.
Paul, really quickly, Tom Mestro insisting yesterday after the verdict came down that he was going to be appealing this decision. The likelihood that Cosby's attorneys have a successful appeal case?
It's not very likely. I think what those attorneys are going to focus on is the judge's discretion in the second case to allow more witness victims to come in showing modus operandi. And that's going to be the key thing. That information and that type of testimony is very influential on a jury and certainly affected the outcome in terms of how they prepared for their case. I think that's going to be the key for them to focus on. But it's a really high standard to overturn a case, and they're going to have to show that independently was the reason for the verdict. And there certainly was evidence independent of that decision to have found him guilty, even though there was a mistrial in the first presentation. It was a whole entirely different presentation from the prosecution and from the defense based on these other witnesses coming in, but then also how the defense approached this case in the first place by, instead of presenting information to the jury that this was a consensual relationship, that it was a romantic relationship, that it was a misinterpreted relationship, they actually attacked the victim in this case. They attacked the Me Too movement. They attacked the mob mentality, referencing Cosby as a victim and a lynching. I think that was a big mistake, and certainly it didn't pan out with this jury. I don't know that they're going to allude to any of that in their motion.
Yeah.
I believe that what they're going to focus on is that singular decision by the judge to allow more victim witnesses to come in and testify, showing pattern and practice, which certainly made Cosby look much more guilty, obviously, and resulted in the conviction.
All right. Paul Henderson there in San Francisco. Paul, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. And as we were having that conversation, a bit of a development here in the